We're here today with Bryan Chamberlain from Sundown Audio to learn how to properly recone an 18-inch sub. And what we're going to do today is we have the SDDN 18 with the homemade shim as seen in a previous video that we're going to use to make sure that it's lined up. Bryan knows the proper way to recone a sub, that way it'll last and perform. Now I'll lead it off to Bryan, who's going to explain to us how we do this.
Yeah, Log, first off, thank you for doing this, because for those who have seen my videos on the Sundown Audio YouTube channel and on our website, I only did the 10 and 12. I haven't gotten to the 18 yet, so I think it's time we do this. All right. Like he said, we went ahead and made a shim of, what was it, 7 pieces of paper?
7 pieces. Yep.
Yep. And results may vary. Some coils are thicker than others, and some gaps are different sizes. So if you watch that video, you should know how to make a shim.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to do is we want to look at if we've got the spider spacer. This particular woofer does not have the spider spacer in it right now, and chances are if you're reconing your woofer, you probably already have one of these in. It should look something like that, and there'll probably be a bunch of glue down in here too. So if for some reason when you were cleaning and sanding down and you went too deep and got into that plastic, you can actually purchase these spider spacers. Just give us a call and we'll sell them to you. So it'll sit something like that, but in order to make this work, we have to glue it in, and in order to glue it in, we have to sand it first, because glue will adhere better to the sanded surface. So let's go ahead and do that. So I have here just a piece of cutoff wheel, or a sanding disc that was a little extra used, and we're not using it anymore, but there's still some good surface on there. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to use my gut, and I'm just going to sand that surface just like that.
And what kind of grit do we have here? Like a 60?
I think this is a 40.
40 grit?
You want a pretty heavy grit, so something around anywhere from 20 to 60 should do the job, because you really want it to bite that plastic. And if you actually have a power sander of some sort, that would make your life way easier. But this will do the job. All right, so once I got the bottom sanded, I'm actually gonna flip it around since I've already got this in my hands. And I'm gonna sand this inside landing right here. And the reason why I'm gonna do that is because that's where the spider actually sits. And it's good to have some sanded material here as well. That way when you lay your glue down, it bites onto the plastic. So I'm just gonna sit it down here and make sure it works and it fits in there. Now I wanna show you something. It's a little trick that I do, not everybody else does it, but I've been around our 18-inch woofers long enough. I wanna show you guys something. So check this out. You see how this has a little bit of play in it, like that? And then let me show you, here's our Recone. See how that Recone fits in there nice and snug? And if I try to move the spider, there's not really much play. Now that can be an issue. Think about this. If this is glued into place, and let's say it's glued in all the way to the left or all the way to the right, and we drop that extremely centered Recone down in there, it may actually hit, that spider may hit this ledge right here. Okay? A way to prevent that, and what we're going to do today, is we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut about 1/8 inch, a 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, all the way around the whole spider. And what that'll do, it'll ensure that you don't have any issues with your spider hitting the landing properly. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that little bit of edge off the spider. Be careful when you're going in here with your scissors that you don't hit your leads, because if you cut those off, you're kind of screwed. So. 1/16 to 1/8 all the way around. And then now, when I put the spider spacer on it, I've got some play. You see that?
Oh yeah.
So when I set my glue down, it'll come up around. It just sits so much better this way.
That, and if that ring is offset at all, it'll actually go in.
Yep. Now I forgot to mention, we are on a Lazy Susan. So we do sell our Lazy Susans. They're actually Sundown branded. I think they're like 40 bucks shipped, somewhere around there. You can get them on our website. And they make the Recone job way easier. So you might as well get you a Lazy Susan if you plan on reconing a woofer anytime soon. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take that shim out real quick. I want to clean all the surfaces that we're going to put glue on. I just have a microfiber towel and some alcohol. Douse it in there real good. And then we're just going to wipe all them surfaces. Your surfaces have to be sanded like these are right here. Do not try to do this on a painted surface. A little bit of paint is okay, but you want to be able to see some bare metal in there. And see, it was dirty.
Yeah.
After sanding. All right, so before we start laying down any glue or anything like that, when you get your Recone kit, this is what it should look like in general, a Recone kit. Cone, spider, coil, all glued together with your triple joints and all the good stuff. When you get this, you want to make sure that it's perfect, you know? You want to make sure the spider is straight. You want to make sure there's no dings or dents inside that coil. You want to make sure that there's no weird things going on. There's nothing like this, you know, weird lopsided stuff happening. Now in shipping, sometimes things will kind of get pushed in or moved around, and then over time it'll come back to where it needs to be. However, if you do get a Recone kit and something is not correct with it, you also, again, you want to make sure you check your impedance with a multimeter, which we don't have here. This is a dual 1 coil. The STDNs only come as a dual 1, so we know this is correct. Check your impedance, make sure everything's correct, because if it's not, you have to let us know. If you recone this woofer and something is actually incorrect with the Recone kit, that's on you. But if you get the Recone kit and you inspect it and something's wrong and you let us know, we'll send you a replacement at no cost. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and glue the spider spacer in. You can do it with or without the Recone involved. I'm just gonna do it without. So I'm gonna lay my glue down, and I'm actually gonna use CA glue. We do not sell CA glue, it's actually volatile, and we cannot ship it with the hazmat licenses that we have, but there are companies that do. I suggest Starbond. I believe it's called TB500 is the black glue that they use. Again, CA glue is what you're gonna use on the spider, because CA glue soaks into that spider and creates a better bond rather than epoxy does. I know that the spider sits on this inner edge, or the spider spacer sits on this inner edge, and that's where I'm gonna lay my glue. I'm actually gonna put a decent amount of glue down, more than what's probably necessary, and that's okay. The more the merrier. So we're gonna do a couple passes here. I'm gonna lay a corner pass. This is coming out slow.
This is why that Lazy Susan comes in handy so much.
It sure does. I need to cut the tip off this damn thing.
Just the tip.
Just gonna do a couple passes here of this CA glue. I'm actually gonna bring it up that ledge a little bit. So it's very time sensitive, so we gotta be careful here with our timing. I'm gonna go ahead and drop that in place. Move it around a little bit, and I wanna get it as centered as possible. It's not very easy to do. And I can actually feel that glue already getting settled. And I'm gonna hit it with an accelerator. Come on. And you want to check, you want to push around, make sure there's no weird gaps or glues coming out. Everything looks great. Let's see, we have a little extra right here, but that's okay. Nobody's going to see it. And if you forgot to sand this landing, now would be the time to do that before you drop the Recone kit in there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is not very necessary, but it is something that we do here at Sundown, and I would suggest that you do it because it looks good aesthetically and it does help a little bit with bonding of the spider spacer. And that would be, I'm going to put some 5-minute epoxy, and we use the black kind, down in this little gap right here. Just makes it look better, and it's easier to do when you don't have your Recone kit put into the woofer yet. And if you've already got the spider spacer in there from previous, you're not going to have to do this part because the glue is already there. So I'm going to use some glue. This is actually Sundown branded 5-minute epoxy. We don't have this on our website yet, but eventually we may, but you can always call us. This works great for this particular job. It also works great on surrounds and dust caps as well. But it almost takes a whole tube of this to fill this in to make it look right. It's self-leveling, which makes it look a lot nicer, and it kind of puts the glue where it needs to go rather than you having to push it around.
It's kind of already starting over here.
Yep. And so it takes just about a whole tube. You could use more than one tube too.
The more the merrier.
Yeah, that's right. You just don't want it to overflow. So I suggest one tube. This is a 50 milliliter tube.
And how much do we sell those for?
I believe it's around $15 a tube.
It's not bad.
It's really the same thing as Loctite 5-minute epoxy for the most part. It's very, very similar. And we use a mixing tube, which makes it come out way easier. That way you don't have to sit there and mix it yourself, you know? So now that glue's laid down, all you have to do is set it and forget it. It'll do its own thing. All right, so before we lay any glue down for the spider, we want to do a dry fit to make sure everything fits properly. Otherwise, you might be screwed if something doesn't fit right. So we make sure our leads are sticking out like that, and they are. And the leads go with the terminals. And we'll talk more about those terminals here in a minute. We'll go ahead and give it a little squeeze like that. Sit it down, and then you may have to come up here and straighten your paper out. Try not to bend it like I did. All right. If we line everything up, check this out. Your notch should line up with the holes. There's a little hole and a big hole, depending on if you've got the metal gasket that's got the screws through it. If you use a rubber gasket, the little holes don't matter, but the big holes do. So that seems to fit well. And it looks like we're not going to have any problems. So now I'm going to pull this back out. Set it to the side. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and lay the glue down on the spider landing. Remember, this was sanded down first. And there's these little holes that aren't really used anymore, so I like to fill those holes in. I'll just go like that, fill the hole in. You kind of want to be quick, because if you're using CA glue, it is very time sensitive. And it's also very moisture sensitive as well. So if you're doing this outside, like in a humid area, you got to be super fast. For some reason, humidity kicks it off faster. And we're going to go ahead and lay this in. You want to line up your holes and your terminals. Make sure the leads aren't in the way. And it's good to give a little push. If you look right here, you can see the glue kind of pops up a little bit and grabs the edge of that spider. And we want to make sure that there's that you can't push the spider up or down. And you want to make sure it's seated properly. Once it's seated properly, we can start hitting it with our accelerant. If for some reason your spider's popped up just a little bit on one side, you can add a little bit of weight to it and then hit it with the accelerator and it'll hold it in place. So I'm gonna take my accelerator, I'm gonna hit this really heavy. The more the merrier. You wanna almost soak the edge of that spider in that landing. And that is already bonded. There is no more glue or dry time to that. It's dry already.
Nice.
And I'm gonna flip the surround up. The Mega Roll woofer is like this. You can actually flip the surround up and it'll stay just like that. And there's a couple things I'm gonna do. The reason why I do that is if you look down in here, it gives me access to screw these leads in. Otherwise, you'll have to use really small tools. So it's best to do this part before you glue the surround down. Your shim stays in the whole time, by the way. So we're gonna do that. I'm also going to add some glue to the top of this spider landing in here to just make it look pretty. Why not? So I have a 3mm Allen right here, and that is the same size for these little screws that you use for the leads. You want to use your fingers first to get it in finger tight at least. So we put it on that lead right there. Let's get a good view. So I have it sitting right there. I'm going to put that right there and I'm going to finger tight it. I could start it just like that. You want to make sure that your lead isn't touching the metal. You want it to stick out kind of on a 45 to not a 90, but just somewhere in between 45 and 90, maybe 30 degrees or so. Just give that a little start there. And we'll finish that off with the drill. Tighten these up. You can just use a T-handle or you can use your fingers. I just use an impact driver. Just don't do too many ugga-duggas, okay? You'll have a bad time. I'm gonna get around here. So I'm gonna hold my finger. I'm gonna hold this lead so it doesn't move when I tighten this. Just a couple clicks. Same thing with this one. There we go. It looks something like that.
Perfect.
Right. And one thing I didn't go over in the videos that I made was that sometimes the surrounds, they have a release agent from the factory, and you need to wipe that off. You don't know whether it does or does not. Some of them do. There's no way to see it. So you want to take some alcohol and a rag and you want to wipe down the landings on the surround. That way the release agent comes off. Because if for some reason you don't do this part and there is a release agent there, your glue actually will not stick to the surround.
Now, Brian, is it recommended to paint these surrounds at all?
Only you, Log. Sometimes we will put what's called a former cap underneath the dust cap to keep pressure off the dust cap. But you're probably going to paint this, aren't you?
Maybe.
So I have a suggestion, and it'd be pretty cool to show your customers this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do some epoxy on the front side of the cone, and it will drip down onto the dust cap, and it'll hold that dust cap to the cone even better. We'll show that at the end. That's like the end result. But if you paint it, it'll look even shinier and better. Let's do that.
I like that. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so now that I've wiped this with alcohol, and this is also wiped with alcohol, I'm going to use E6000 as my glue. This gives you more than enough time if you make a mistake. You just have to make sure you keep the shim in the woofer, okay, while it's drying. So we're going to go ahead and use E6000. I'm going to put not too much, okay? Since we're using a metal gasket and the metal gasket clamps the surround down, we only just need to put a little bit of this on there. So what I do is I'm going to lay this flat. You want to come around here.
Yeah.
I lay this pretty much flat on the surface, and I'm going to try to stay away from my holes. I'm going to go around the holes. That way it makes it a little easier to deal with. You could barely see that on camera probably.
Oh yeah.
Just a smidge, so really not too much. Now if I was using a rubber gasket, I would put more glue on this than what I'm doing now. But since we're using the metal gasket, the glue is not super necessary as much as it used to be. Put the cap back on so it doesn't dry. So now I'm going to go ahead and pop that surround down, and we're going to push it into place.
Once again, that Lazy Susan just coming in handy so much.
It really is. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and lay our gasket on, and the big holes line up with the big holes, and the small holes line up with the small holes. Simple enough, right? Now, before you start screwing things down, you're going to notice your gaps may be a little bit off. So you want to just make sure that you pull things where they need to be. And while you're doing this, you'll be checking for inconsistencies. You want things to be as centered as possible, okay? So line it all up straight. And what we're going to do, I'm going to put one screw in about halfway, because if I were to screw it all the way, it'll actually kick up the gasket on the other side. So I'm going to put that in halfway, and then I'll put the other screw in. That way it evens it out. Okay, so I'm going to put this one in just a little bit. Okay. Now I can go all the way with this one. Perfect.
2 Ugga-Duggas.
Yep. And don't forget to tighten this one back up. There we go. And now, just throw all the other ones in. Now, if for some reason you put too much glue down, you're going to find it may be hard to get these screws in correctly in the holes. So in that case, you may have to pull things back up and peel some glue off.
I'm definitely guilty of that.
Same here. I only know that from experience. All right, so our gasket is on. Now at this point, if you used E6000 like we just did, set it, forget it, go back the next day, or give it at least 5 to 6 hours before you pull the shim out, because you have to pull the shim out to do the next part of the job. Next, we're gonna go ahead and do the dust cap. We have to sand this down first, and we gotta pull the shim out. So I'm gonna sand this dust cap. You use that same sanding pad that you use to do the landings. Just give it a good scuff. Set it on your gut, you know.
If you don't have one of those, Taco Bell.
That's right. All right, make sure all the dust is off of it. It's kind of like a habit. I just smack it on my belly. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this the shim out real quick. Perfect. Okay, now there's a couple glues you can use here. You can use E6000, which is the same stuff we use on the surround, or you can use the 5-minute epoxy. Doesn't matter which route you take. I'm going to use 5-minute epoxy because that's what I enjoy using the most. If you're going to use a 5-minute epoxy or any type of 2-part epoxy, it's good to purge it first to get it mixed before you put it on something that's important. So just that much usually will handle the job. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna get in the seam. And I'm gonna go wild. Okay, then I'm gonna take my dust cap. Not that one. There we go. I'm going to take my dust cap, and I'm going to go ahead and put it on the inner seam right here. The reason why I'm doing this is when this glue flows down due to gravity, it will catch the other glue I just put on there and create a good lock. I'll put my dust cap down in.
It's awesome.
Set it into place first. Now, what you want to do, what we do here at Sundown, is we make sure that the logo lines up with the terminals. Now right now it doesn't, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to twist it. Just be careful of the glue.
I appreciate it. You have a great day.
Which I'm not being careful, but you know. And now my logo lines up with those terminals. And at this point, any excess glue you can wipe off. And we're going to add a dust cap weight, which we do sell these, folks. It's 10 pounds exactly, and with the contour of the dust cap, you set it just like that. Wait a day before you play the woofer, and we're good to go. All right, so for aesthetics purposes, I'm going to go ahead and lay a little bit of epoxy on the top of the spider. It's not really necessary, but it sure does look nice when you do it. And again, remember, it's self-leveling, so you just kind of splooge it in there and it'll do what it needs to do. Don't put too much on there, or else it'll go around and it'll come out the edge here or go towards the internals of the spider, and you don't want to do that.
Beautiful.
And that will self-level and look pretty when it's done.
Good stuff.
At least it's supposed to. All right, so now that the dust cap is dry, we're gonna go ahead and pull the dust cap weight off, and this woofer is actually ready for action. I do suggest you wait at least 24 hours before you play your woofer, depending on the glues that you use. We're gonna do a little something special for log today. We're gonna actually put some epoxy up here, and it's gonna flow its way down into the dust cap, and it'll lock the dust cap in even more, because I know log plays his woofers a little extra hard. Plus, he's going to spray it with paint. I think it would look pretty cool with it being a little shinier than this matte material. So let's go ahead and put some epoxy down on this cone. All right, let's go for it. So I'm going to start here. I'm just going to work our way down. It should all flow together. You may have to persuade it a little bit with your fingers or a tool of some sort. I'm going to take my pick tool first. I'm going to do some swirls. Get those gaps all cleaned up. We should watch it flow a little bit better once we do this.
Okay.
We want it to look pretty at least, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And then you're going to make it look like crap with stupid
Make it look
gold
10 times
paint.
better.
You have to do this while it's still wet, or else it's going to look weird. You're going to get some little air bubbles. Sometimes you can kind of pop those.
Beautiful. And that's how you build a proper sub with Bryan Chamberlain from
sir.
Sundown Audio.
18-inch.
18-inch sub,
18-inch,
yes.
Check it out.